In this lecture, we will study the Extrude tool. This tool is one of the key 3D modeling tools in Fusion. It allows us to generate 3D geometries by either adding material or by removing it, which we call Extrude cut. To demonstrate this, we'll be modeling this part that we see here. It makes good use of the Extrude and the Extrude cut tool. So we'll start off by doing some sketching, and then I'll introduce the various options, controls, and edits we have when using the Extrude tool. So to model this part, we'll start off with a sketch and an extrusion of the base. We'll then form the cylindrical feature at the back, like this. We'll then create a slot in the top using the Extrude cut tool. We'll then add the boss around the slot. And then finally, we'll use Extrude cut again to remove material from the base. This is a good part to demonstrate for this lecture, as it requires us to use the Extrude tool for both having material and also removing material. So let's start by sketching the base. So I've opened up Fusion in a new design. Let's come up to the top left, create sketch. We're going to do this on the XY plane. Let's start off with the line tools, hit L on the keyboard. We'll start at the origin. And then we're going to draw this line out 60. And then from there, we've got a tangential arc coming down with a radius of 25. We've got the arc tools, select tangent arc, start from this endpoint, bring that around, put in 25, okay. And then from there, back into the line tool, come across by 60. And then we have another arc here. So I'm going to continue to do that in the line tool. You've got to hold down the left mouse button and drag that up to the endpoint here. That's good. So the sketch is not yet fully defined. We've got the tangency between this line, and the tangency here between this arc and this line. We do need another tangency between these two here. We don't need one at the origin because the arc snaps onto the origin, and that forms a coincident constraint. From here, now there is a through hole on the left-hand side. That's a radius of 10. So hit C on the keyboard from the center, with a diameter 20. And then we've got a center to center slot over here. Let's go to create, put in the slot, center to center. It starts from the center point of this arc and comes across. We're just going to put the slot in there and then dimension that up afterwards. So center to center, we have 12 mil. And then the radius of the slot, we have 6 mil. So that's our first sketch complete. Then we have 3 profiles here. We have this profile. We have this profile within the circle and this profile within the slot. Let's come up to finish sketch on the top right. Let's go on the home view. So next to the view cube, just hit the home icon. And let's come over to solid. And we've got the option to extrude here. So this is the shortcut E on the keyboard. And our toolbox pops up. In terms of the type of extrusion, we have the default extrude or the general extrude, which is most common. And then we also have thin extrude as well. So this is very similar to shelling a part, and we'll be looking at that later. But for now, we're going to focus on extrude. In terms of profiles, we'll need to select one of the 3 profiles. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. We want to select this one here. So I left click there. In terms of the starting point for the extrusion, we want that to be on the profile plane. So that is the plane in which we drew the sketch on. Now there are other options like offset, that we can't offset an extrusion by a distance. For example, if I select offset, I put my offset as, let's go for 50 mil, and my extrusion distance, let's say 10. We'll see here that the extrusion does not start on the plane. It's actually offset by 50 mil, and then we've got our 10 mil extrusion. That's not exactly what we're looking for. We'll exit that. Let's go back to profile plane, select that profile again. And then we have another option here, which is direction. So in this case, we're just extruding in one direction where we see the arrow is, like so. But we have got the option as well for 2 sides. So this is where we can control the extrusion in one direction and then in another as well. So we've got the side 1 and side 2. But in this case, we're just going to go with the one side. There's also symmetric as well. So symmetric would be in equal distance, both sides. If we say, let's say 20 mil, be 20 mil in one direction and 20 mil in the other, unless we change the measurement here to the whole length, in which case it will be 10 mil in one direction and 10 mil in the other. So an overall extrusion of 20 mil. Let's change the direction back to one side. We've then got extend type. So distance is where we state a distance for it to extrude. So we manually input a figure there. We got to object, so that's in a case where we can extrude to another body or a face or perhaps a plane that we've inserted. And then we also got all as well. So this is where Fusion would recognize all of the bodies within the path of the extrusion and then extrude up into that point. We'll take a look at that later. Let's keep it on distance for now. And as for the drawing, we have a extrusion of 10 mil and a 0 degree taper. So if I change the taper, let's say to 25 degrees, and then I click on the front view, we can see there that it's tapering. Okay, so if I scroll this way, we see that taper all the way around. And if we wanted to taper in the other direction, we can just put a minus in front of it. It will taper like so. But we're not so much interested in tapers for now. I'll keep that as 0. And the last option here is operation. So we've got join, cut, intersect, new body, and component. So we want to leave our first extrusion as new body. And if any further extrusions, we can then investigate whether they are to join onto an existing body, to cut that body, which we'll be doing today, or to intersect and so forth. So let's press OK there. Next up, let's do the circular feature on the left-hand side with the through hole and the slot running through it. So to do this, we want to sketch on this face here and then extrude from that face. So to do this, we can either click on Create Sketch and then select the face, or a shortcut is just to right-click and then select Create Sketch. Now we're looking at that face perpendicularly. I'm going to choose the circle tool, press C on the keyboard, and I want to snap on to the center point of this circle here and this arc. If we move the mouse here, Fusion will recognize we're trying to get to the center point, and we'll see that blue circle. Let's draw that out, and we can just bring that to the origin, as that's 50 mil at the diameter of this circular extrusion. We'll click there once. Then nice and simple, we'll come to solid, select extrude. Then we're going to select our profile here. So we do have 2 profiles available, but this is the one we want. The left click once there. In terms of the toolbox, everything here is to be left as default. And then the distance, we want to enter in 30 minus 10, which is 20. And now as we look at the operation, you'll see that Fusion would no longer be generating a new body. Instead, it will create a join. So that will join essentially this body to this one. So we'll just have one body. So if I click OK for now, then I come over to my browser on the left-hand side. And next to bodies, if I hit the drop down, you'll see we just have one body. We can choose to hide that if we want. Now, if I come down to my timeline and I right click on the extrusion and then select edit feature. So I'm going to edit this extrusion here from my toolbox again. If I select new body and then OK, come over to our bodies folder, then we see we've got 2 bodies there. We've got the new body, which is generated, and body 1. And we can choose to hide either one of these or show them. But it can be really useful when it comes to doing any presentation work or demonstrations and such. But for the purposes of this part, we only need a join in this case. So I'm going to edit feature, change that to join, press OK. And then we want to implement this slot, which is on this face here. So I'm going to right click on that face, hit create sketch. Now for this, I'm going to use the center point rectangle. So under my creation tools, rectangle, center point. And again, I want to snap on to the center point of these 2 circles here. But now we can see that blue circle. Let's left click once, snap on there, bring out our center point rectangle. Want to make sure this comes exterior of the 50 mil circle. And we're entering a length there of, let's say, 60 millimeters. Press tab on the keyboard. And then the width of this slot is 12 mil. Press enter. Our geometry in place there. Let's come up to solid. Select extrude again. Then we just need to extrude these certain profiles, which are this one here and this one here. Now notice that the default in Fusion is to add material. So for example, with this arrow here, Fusion is wanting to add material to this part, but actually we want to remove material in the other direction. So if we move the mouse down, we'll then see this red highlighted area indicating that material is then being removed. And also, if we look at the toolbox, we can see that the operation is not a new body, it's not a join, but it's a cutting operation, essentially removing material. So we want to leave everything as default, so starting from the plane we drew on, only going in one direction, and we want this to be a distance extent type. So in this case, the slot depth is 6 mil, so type in -6. Okay, operation is cut and that's correct, and press OK. And there we have our slot in place. on the home view. That's looking good. The next thing we need to do is add the boss, which encapsulates the slot just here. So to do that, I want to sketch on this face here. So again, I'm going to right click, go create sketch. And here I'm going to use the offset tool because the entities of this slot are all present. So if I hit O on the keyboard, or you can go into modify and then select offset, we can then select the slot entities. So from here, I want to offset in the other direction. So I'm going to hit the flip. And then I'm going to enter a distance there of minus. So we've got the rad is 11 minus 6. So that'll be minus 5. It's okay. Then you see we've got this profile here. That's the one we want to extrude. I'm just going to hit E on the keyboard and then hover my mouse over till we see this profile selected. Not this one, this one. And then we're going to extrude that by a distance of 4 mil as per the drawing and leave everything else as defaults. And we do want that to be a join operation, so it just remains within the same body. Click OK. And there we have the boss surrounding the slot. And let's add one more feature to those parts so we can practice again with the Extrude Cut tool. Now for this, we want to sketch on this face, and I'm going to take off some material, giving us a slop on the underside of this part. So let's right click, go create sketch. And for this, I'm going to use the line tool and draw in a construction line. So under my line type, hit construction. When I come across to I see the midpoint snap, left click once, take that down to the midpoint snap of this horizontal. That's good. And let's turn off construction, put the palette back. And I come under my create tools, rectangle. Let's go with the center rectangle. And this is why I drew the construction line in place so that I can hover down, identify the center point of that construction line, which identifies the middle of this part, and I can just drag that out like so. I need to make sure that my slot width is exterior of both of those are. So I'm going to go for 125 mil. And then in terms of the width, let's go for 12 mil again. Let's enter on the keyboard. Then let's come up to solid. Let's go on extrude and let's select the according profile. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So in this case, we don't want to add material. So we don't want material coming out like this. So we're going to go in the other direction, make sure the operation is cut. And in this case, we're going for minus 4 millimeters. Leave everything else as default. Press OK. And there we have the slot on the underside of this part. And that is our completed part. So it's a good practice of the extrude tool for both adding material and removing. And just before we finish this lecture, please do remember to save this part as we will be referencing it in a future lecture. I hope you're able to follow along okay. And again, any issues with either the sketching or the 3D modeling, please send me a message. But aside from that, I will see you in the next lecture.